Hello, world. How are you? I'm doing well, me. I'm tired, but I'm doing well. Like, it's now Monday, November 1st, just half 12, so we're doing all right for time these days. I'm hoping to not have a super long journal, I guess. But yeah, all is well, man. Closed up, closed up October with a $14,000 month, or like I think it's like 11k, 11.5k. It rounds up to in British pounds. The tough part is we're still losing more money than we actually get to maintain. So none of that revenue is profit. It's all gone out, and it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough. No, it's actually rattling still, but at the same time, it's cool. I know what it's like to be in a very advantageous position in business, and I know what it's like to have an up period. So for me, I'm okay with knowing that this is just the scenario that I've got to deal with for now and work through it. So yeah, that's like my update for November. Oh shit, no, I'm lying. What else happened in October? We sold out the last boot camp of the year, so very happy in that. Yeah, very happy about that. I think we did it. We didn't really do much promotion or many posts, so like to achieve that was really good. Um, and yeah, fingers crossed. I'm looking forward to seeing how the this bunch of grads do. As yeah, I've got more time to like work on the back end, and I talked about that stuff yesterday, so I'm not gonna go over it today. You know what's interesting? I made a really cool post on. Well, I didn't think it was that cool, but I made a post about why I'm leaving the US. I mean UK to go to the US. Posted on Twitter. I don't know why it had as much traction as it did, but if anything, that tells me I have so much of a sick opportunity to repurpose a lot of my older content from these vlogs and pretty much create stories around them and create even more. So right now I'm doing about one a day. I do feel like it would be a bit corny if I like post three different think pieces every day, and well, not think pieces but stories. But I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna try maybe do one or two, or one all copy, a second one with the daily like clip of the vlog that I just done. I don't know. Fuck knows. Who knows? I don't care. It's not that important anyway. But that's one of the things I'm working on. So yeah, I'm doing all right there. Again, I really want some marketing support. So as soon as I can have that, it'll be great. If you're wondering, I don't have any wine today. Don't have much to be fair, but I've got some candy floss grapes from M&S. If you are in the UK and you like grapes, fruit, M&S has some really good candy floss grapes. I won't like ruin your eardrums with chewing on a grape. I won't do that. But yeah, it was a good month. I think it was a tough month in terms of like the mental side of being a solo founder, but overall, I think it was a positive month and a step in the right direction. So I'm happy with where things are. And like I said yesterday, I'm really excited about seeing how November's going to pan out. In terms of the workload for this week, I have sorted out the automation stuff that I needed to do. So now it's just a matter of connecting it to the website and making some updates to the website, which are a smoother job. I kind of flopped today, if I'm honest. I went to bed really late and I woke up and was a great dog dad and great like guy in the house, I guess. But I didn't do enough work as a professional. So I did very small bits. But then again, slow motion is better than no motion, and we're going somewhere. So we'll see how this pans out. I do think I'm gonna catch up and pick momentum up this week, and be able to execute on the tasks I need to do, aka the marketing tasks. So preparing the mailing list, improving our email drip campaigns, and also working on some behind the scenes content to then do landing pages and add funnels, marketing funnels for our ads. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now, and I'm kind of nervous now I think about it because I need to pick momentum up very quickly, so I get at least 2 weeks of just Facebook checking things out and seeing how that works. We'll figure it out. We usually do. So there's that. I thought today I would. Well, there are no comments. You lot don't love me today, so we'll deal with that. But I thought I'd talk about my journey being neurodivergent or discovering discovering I've got a different type of brain. I've always been conscious of talking about this topic because I'm aware, like I'm so fucking nervous. I'm like, my legs are shaking. Oh Christ. But yeah, I've always been conscious of talking about this topic on like a video. I maybe have alluded to it, but never really felt like I could journal what actually comes out of my mind the same way as I do now, and not have to be scared of what other people think of my content or like anything that I do. But yeah, where am I going to go? Where am I going with this? So I guess I'll start with where I'm currently at. I self-classify, or whatever you want to describe it as someone who's on the autistic spectrum, or someone with ASD, as well as that, likely ADHD coupled with it, and OCD. Hear me out though. I don't really. I mentioned self. I'm not self-diagnosed, but self-proclaimed or whatever. In my story, I'll start with that, and then I'll go back and then tell you how it works and what it's like. So my story starts with that. I now class as that. You might ask, are you really, someone with autism, or someone who is autistic, not with, who is autistic and maybe has those other things that you can describe as mental differences. I don't like calling them disorders; they're just differences at the end of the day. Yeah, you just know, and for me, I certainly do. I've had, what, maybe three different appointments with psychologists. Well, let's just go with this. My last psychotherapist, who also did different types of therapy, I spoke to him about it, and he said, well, I was about 23 when I had therapy with him, 23, 24. And I always asked him, like, is it something that you think is worthwhile? Because I've been able to make it to this point in life where I can, go to private therapy and whatnot. Do you think it's worth getting a diagnosis? He went, what do you think the diagnosis is going to do for you? And I couldn't actually answer that because there aren't any benefits being this age. I guess it's closure, but I don't need closure. I'm okay. I don't feel like I'm any different from, like, I don't really feel that different from anybody else, to be fair. But yeah, he was like, there's no point. In short, for me, there was no point. And he went, at the end of the day, like, given the context of our relationship, he said, you seem to be doing well mentally, and, in life, you're doing okay. So what do you think this is going to do for you? And I was like, you've got a good point. The logic is sound. So yeah, I didn't really have much to combat that. And I remember even like last year, there may have been a time, no, yeah, earlier this year, I was speaking to another friend who went and got their diagnosis, and I did think, you know what, maybe I would look into getting an autism diagnosis again. The private GP that I spoke to, literally the same thing. They was like, well, she did a bit of a pre-screen, I guess, like a pre-screen. She asked me a few questions about myself, and then she like just literally said the same thing as my psychotherapist. This one was I think this one's a neuroscientist or something. I can't remember what it was, but it was somebody who works with the brain. And she literally, I respected what she said because she actually went full disclosure. She said, look, I'm only telling you this because we are both, we're both the same color. We both seem to come from similar points in life or backgrounds in life. There's no point. In other scenarios, other doctors or other people might tell you to go down the route and pay the money and do all that stuff. But like, if you've made it this far in life, you just don't need it. So I was like, okay, cool. Again, maybe I don't need closure. So mentally I've closed that chapter off. I don't feel like I need the diagnosis. Before these scenarios, the last time I went to university, I was at University Arts London. I I was supposed to get a diagnosis, or I was supposed to go through the process of getting a diagnosis. I kept getting it. Maybe it started in mid first year, and it took until the second year to get somebody to refer me because the operations was just a shit show. Like no one was pushing the envelope, and every time I tried to get someone to look into my case, they stalled on it. And there were scenarios where I'd sit down, I'd talk to someone, and they'll say, "Look, well, they'll ask me how am I doing? Why do I think I need this diagnosis? Why? What's the point of doing it? Why am I doing it? Like, why do I think I might be on the autistic spectrum? And how does that look?" And I literally just said, "Look, I've also been through other instances of trying to get the diagnosis in the past, and it just didn't work. And at the previous uni before then, I did the same thing, but I actually dropped out earlier. I dropped out literally before they could put me onto the second stage, and yeah, I had like different things that went on. So those are like two instances. But going even further back is probably easier for me now to speak about, simply because in school, college, primary, literally all forms of education, I didn't realize that. Well, it wasn't. It went undiscovered. I think people didn't think I saw the world differently, or maybe what, I'm lying because I actually spoke to a teacher the other day. But yeah, a lot of my childhood I spent socially. I was actually quite cool. I was cool socially, not cool as in being a cool person, but I was cool with people, and I had like good friends, and I didn't really have too much trouble making friends. So it was like okay. I think the problems were understanding like other social aspects. So yeah, there was no like awkwardness on that front. But that was like how school went. What else happened in school? In secondary school, especially, I had many instances where I it seemed like I was a bad kid, but I didn't actually. I had no intent of being bad, and I didn't really want to be bad. It just I think I was really bored with school, and I didn't understand that I didn't understand how to deal with my own boredom, and I acted out, and I did things. I was disruptive. I'd speak. I kind of just didn't care for the world. I was in my own world a lot of the time, and I yeah, as a result, I was on report for quite a bit of it, and not like I was on behavior report for a while, and then eventually, by the time I got to year 10, or like grade 9, I guess in the States, I what happened now? They gave me like a special report, like it was my personal report, and they said it's not for your behavior, but it's like for a few things, and it was stuff like lateness, tardy, well, yeah, punctuality as well as behavior, and I felt really isolated, if I'm honest, when that happened, and it quite sucked. Like mentally, it fucked me up a little bit. And going through school, like in my secondary school period, it was quite tough at times because like there was a really good friend of mine in earlier on in my like secondary school journey that passed away, and that really had an effect on me, and it actually triggered a lot of my anxiety trouble growing up, and I'll talk about that maybe another day. But it triggered a lot of it, and when you already feel like I don't know, when you feel mentally unstable as a teenager, like really on edge, and then you get singled out with a report that's like your special report that makes you feel special, well, that's got a bit of a stigma around it, and teachers treat you a weird way. I don't know, it didn't feel great. But that was like secondary school to some extent, and that was how it worked. But I don't really want to talk about that bit too much. I guess I'd talk about what it's actually like being in my head. If I could give you the best description of it, oh wait, let me go back. I actually spoke. So when I said I spoke to a teacher the other day. I spoke to my old form tutor at my secondary school recently on a parents' evening trip. That form tutor said I wasn't actually a bad kid in school because I thought I was naughty, and I said, "Oh, miss, like I used to be naughty, but now I'm like, I promise I'm doing all right." She was like, "You weren't actually naughty. The problem was you spent a lot of time thinking, and you were in your own world. Like you didn't want to comply with what the world had, well, what the world had to offer, and it put me in an awkward position where I was very introspective, and if I wasn't introspective, I was being disruptive, and it had different knock-on effects for other children." And she mentioned I was always a deep thinker, and that triggered an earlier thought with other teachers where they've said that to me, and I was like, what do you mean being a deep thinker? My earliest memory was there was a teacher in, I think I was in year 7, that I was in detention for God knows what, and it was my head of year, and my head of year must have been going through a divorce, and in that like scenario, I was just outside, and my head of year was in and out, and then in and out of like the room and whatnot. But eventually, she came and spoke to me, and she was just asking me some stuff about life and whatnot. And in that situation in itself, I feel like, well, that conversation, we connected in a weird way, where she realized she could speak to me as I felt like she realized she could speak to me as a person and not as a child, an 11-year-old or 12-year-old child. She could speak to me as a person who can comprehend what, the magnitude or the severity of life could be at that age. And I can't remember the conversation too well, but I remember there was a comment at the end of the conversation we had, and she said, "You are quite a deep thinker. It's a bit scary." I didn't know what to think of that, and the good thing is our relationship actually improved, and I didn't really get in trouble the same way after that, because she understood that. She understood me. I don't know. It worked out. But yeah, let me go on to what it's like to be in my brain, I guess. I don't know why. If you're still listening to me, please hit the thumbs up or ask questions, because otherwise you're gonna get me talking about random shit like this in my journal entries. But I've always wanted to talk about it, and I wanted to get it off my chest at some point because it's made me a bit nervous growing up and whatnot. Ooh, 17 minutes. All right, cool. So being in my head is I don't know. Even speaking about this makes it sound pretentious. It makes me feel pretentious. The best way I'd describe so cool. I can describe being on the spectrum, in my position, and with all of the other things that come with it, as being a Ferrari. A Ferrari is an amazingly quick car. It's great at looking shiny. It's great at like driving fast, being loud, having all the bells and whistles of an impractical car for everyday life. But in certain scenarios, it is amazing. It's excellent. It's just beautiful. That's how I describe my brain. It's like I feel like I'm very good in many awkward situations, or not awkward, but niche things. I'm good at niche things, and I can decipher information in really clever ways, I guess you could put it. And my lateral thinking and lateral intelligence is amazing. But at the same time, I'm very impractical in many social scenarios, as well as that. I know that I have my limitations when it comes to like just speaking to people, when it's like small talk or when it's non-work related. I genuinely do struggle a lot of time. I've gotten better over the years because I've gone to therapy and I've worked at it, and I've been able to identify what it is and how it works. But yeah, I really struggled throughout a lot of my life to build relationships with people that may be quiet, or other people that find I don't know. I find it hard to find middle ground with a lot of people. I don't know what is too intense or too deep of a conversation a lot of times, or like I have in the past at least. I'd just say something like, "Hey," like I'd go really far into a conversation when you just met a person, and it's like, that's probably not the question you want to ask them. But at the same time, it makes for great conversation when you're doing a job interview, for instance, or like in certain professional scenarios, networking professionally. But in everyday life, it can be very awkward for other people, and I've grown to understand and recognize what that looks like when other people are uncomfortable in those scenarios. But like, it's never with ill intent or anything. It's just it's kind of difficult to know. It's kind of difficult to know because everyone's, let's say, car is different, and they like we will operate differently, and you just never know who's gonna reply a certain way. But like stuff like that would happen socially. Social cues I'm not great at. I've gotten better over time. I have really big obsessions when it comes to you know what happens? I pick up hobbies for like 3 weeks and then I'll be super invested. I will learn as I'll go very in depth in things, pick up get to a good level of competency at understanding what the concept is or the skill is. I'll be half decent a lot of the time, and then eventually I'll just drop it. I'll find another thing to go be obsessed about, and I'll have different pockets of deep knowledge. Well, I guess you could say surface level, but surface level to me. But at the same time, when I've actually looked at compared myself to how it actually transpires in real life scenarios, it's actually fairly deep to some extent. Not like 10 years deep, obviously, but deep enough to understand concepts at a good level. And I'm very capable of doing stuff like that over and over again. And I don't know, like every year I probably have three new things I'm into, and it just happens every year that they all revolve around. They usually revolve around the same thing. So, like for instance, design is one of them for me. Technology is another one. I'm very big into. I'm big on sports nowadays. I don't have a preference. I like Formula One. I love cars. I love the engineering aspect of it and what it actually means, like how like things work. Maybe not as in depth as others. I'm aware of that. But I enjoy Formula One, motorsport. I enjoy football, basketball, American football. I kind of don't get some of the rules, but I enjoy a lot of things, and this is just how my world works. I do stuff like this. Oh yeah, music, fashion. Well, no, not fashion, but music. From a production side, from a songwriting side, engineering side. I'm keen on, those types of things, and for me, it's like I can get really obsessed and pick up a skill, and I can be fairly decent in a short amount of time, and for some reason my brain just switches off. It's very hard to actually stay focused on doing the same thing over and over again. I know that like some people have some people only like doing the same thing and they don't like change, but for me, I guess this is where other neurodiverse traits come in, and I want to try something new. So for instance, for me to have ran Love Circular for the past nearly 4 years in April, well I say nearly, but 4 years in April, no, it's actually longer because I did it before it launched. So like it's coming up to 5 years. I'm impressed because I can't lie, like usually I'd quit things very quickly. What else is an interesting part of being in my brain? I'm always thinking. It's a blessing and a curse, but I'm always thinking, and it's very tiring. And process, like I've said earlier, I process information really quickly, so it's like I burn calories like there is no tomorrow. I'm talking. I have a really fast metabolism, and I probably attribute thinking to most of it, which is kind of weird now I think about it. But at the same time, it's not because oh yeah, I like chess as well. Like I developed that habit like 2 years ago. But when you look into chess grandmasters and you look at how many calories they can burn in a day worth of chess tournaments, it's quite remarkable. And then it lets you know that yeah, you can burn a lot of energy. So yeah, that's one of the things I think a lot, and it can drive people insane because I'm always trying to skip ahead in a conversation if I feel like they're going down the path that I don't enjoy, and that's probably another one of those weird social things that can irk people, or like it's just not something that's widely acceptable, I guess. But at the same time, it is what it is. I do think of autism as like a superpower. I think being neurodivergent is a superpower. To be fair, though, like it, if you're fortunate enough to be someone who's able to, look after yourself and, maintain a good quality of life as an individual, it can be a very sick blessing for some of us. And I know that it's not everyone that's in this position, but I can only speak from my experience. Um, and for me, it has been a superpower because I've always felt like I can do more than my peers. I feel like I can take more than my peers whether it's mental, whether it's mental pressure, whether it's anguish, stress, whether it's being in chaos or high pressure situations. A lot of that stuff, I don't know, like it doesn't bother me as much, and I've always been able to maintain a level of composure that is very good under pressure, and it's helped me out. Like I said, it's helped me out professionally, but then again, it's impractical for things like dinner table talk or meeting new people sometimes. And yeah, I don't know what else. What else can I say? What else? What else? What else? It's kind of annoying because I'll finish this clip and I'll be like, oh, I should have mentioned this. I should have mentioned that. Oh yeah, I get really addicted to things, like very much. I'll develop addictions so I mentioned I'll develop new interests and I'll be like in depth. That actually translates into also being addicted to things. So like, there's been times where I've been addicted to drinking, for instance. I wouldn't call myself an alcoholic, but I'd be addicted to drinking, or I might be addicted to exercising. I'll be addicted to literally sweets, and I'll go off it. Like, it's so annoying. But again, like I remember saying just before, like my car's like a Ferrari. It's impractical. It's amazing at certain things. It's amazing if the weather's good, the track is not bumpy, the surface is amazing. The tires are fresh. It's amazing under so many circumstances. Oh, so few circumstances, but it's impractical in terms of just being able to fit in on a daily basis in many other scenarios. Like I've also had the downside of being employed and being managed out because I was seen as disinterested, a person who doesn't really want to be there. I don't get certain things. I don't fit a culture, and it's very easy to be a person that's overlooked for many things. Oh shit, I was overlooked for many things growing up. Um, so yeah, it's easy to be that person, and like that the outcome of a lot of that, if I'm honest, is loneliness, man. I spent a long time feeling lonely growing up, between maybe ages 16 to about 22. Yeah, 22ish, maybe no, about 13 to 22. 13 is when I properly developed anxiety troubles. I literally spent a lot of that time alone. I missed out on a lot of what I would class as somewhat socially important things for teenagers, young adults. Like, yeah, I missed out on a lot of those. Either because I was too anxious or just because I don't know, this didn't interest me. But I think looking back now, they would have been really good experiences to have, and maybe it would have improved my relationships that I possibly have. But at the same time, I'm not like fussed about what I currently have today because I'm doing all right. And, I've got good people that are around me and love me. So can't complain. But yeah, I do think looking back, I missed out on a lot just because I was kind of awkward, or like it may have seemed like I was a bit more awkward than I initially wanted to come across. And I didn't get invited to a lot of things. So yeah, that happened. I hope these videos don't actually come across as a sob story, or like you should feel sorry for me, because it's not the case. It's just me talking to myself on camera, to be fair. I'm not actually lonely at the moment or any of that. I'll tell you if I was, I promise. I just thought, yeah, I just thought I'd talk to you about my brain. I've got other things that go on, but yeah, those are like being neurodivergent for me. And it's a thing that growing up, I never knew what autism really was. I thought it was one thing. I thought it was a very one-dimensional thing. And even now, there's like so much stigma, but a lot of people don't really understand that it's a spectrum. No, like autistic person's the same as the other. There may be different. There may be similarities between different people, but like nobody's like one for one the same as the other person. And it is something that people are often offended by when someone says, "Oh, but you don't look like you're autistic," or "You don't look like, you're on the spectrum." It's like, what's that supposed to mean? Yeah, God knows. It does. Well, it's like, "You don't seem though." It's like, thanks, I guess, but like at the same time, eh, stuff like this doesn't have a look. And I guess growing up, that's probably one of the reasons why people overlooked my case. They thought I don't look visibly a certain way and I don't act a certain way that they expected, and I went under the radar. I didn't get as much support, but at the same time I got a lot of love growing up. So yeah, it balanced out, I guess, and I'm thankful for that. Another thing that's interesting is autism's also genetic. And I can speak about, yeah, autism and spectrum itself is fairly genetic. One of my parents is very noticeably, like, to me, very noticeably on the spectrum. And even I have a younger sibling who's very much alike myself and my parent that I mentioned. What else? One of my nephews, you just look at him, and I look at him and I can see everything about myself. I can see a lot about myself in him. He's different in many unique ways, but like, yeah, I can see myself being like him. And a lot of the troubles that he gets into, in his school years and whatnot, or like throughout school, they're very similar to what happened to me. And with myself, people just thought like they think you're being bad, or like they mislabel you in school, and yeah, they treat you a certain way, and it's just not the case. Sometimes you just need a little bit. You need to sit down with someone who can just speak to you. I think that's often a very big solution. And it wasn't until I started doing therapy that a lot of my differences and my misunderstandings about the world were rectified and properly aligned with reality. Yeah, that's day 17 of 0 to 100K a month. Deep one, right? I told you. All right, peace. 32 minutes, I'll take it.